The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we will be answering listener emails, and we have a question from Paul, who lives in Seattle, Washington. And Paul asks, in light of President Trump's recent announcement of a 25% tariff on Japanese imports, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has called the move truly regrettable and has pledged to protect Japan's national interests while continuing negotiations. With Japan's auto and rice industries under scrutiny and elections looming, how should the Japanese government balance domestic political pressures with the need to maintain a strong alliance with the U.S.? And thank you, Paul, for the excellent question. Mark, Scott, your thoughts?
My thought is I'm exhausted.
Really?
Yeah, well, look, I wanted to read, at least you stop me when you want to, but this is the letter that Trump sent to Ishiba Shigeru. I'm not saying that right, sorry. At least I try to say the name. Trump just goes, the new Prime Minister of Japan. I was really good friends with Abe or whatever his name was. You know, can't even get past that. It is a great honor for me to send you this letter in that it demonstrates the strength and commitment of our trading relationship, both in caps, and the fact that the United States of America has agreed to continue working with Japan despite having significant trade deficit with your great country. Nevertheless, we have decided to move forward with you, but only with more balanced and fair trade, all caps. Therefore, we invite you to participate in the extraordinary economy of the United States, the number one market in the world, all in caps. By far, we have had years to discuss our trading relationship, again, in caps, with Japan, and have concluded that we must move away from these long-term and very persistent trade deficits, caps, engendered by Japan's tariff, cap in capitals, and non-tariff policies, capital, and trade barriers, also capital. Our relationship has been unfortunately far from reciprocal with a capital R. So I'm going to stop there. But what the fuck? Somebody, he didn't write this letter. He may have dictated it, and somebody took the dictation down and did the capital letters for him and wrote this illiterate, terrible letter and actually sent it out to the Prime Minister of Japan and then put it out in the public. Like, we should all be like falling all over ourselves about this brilliant letter that he sent. This is like, I don't even know what this is like. Oh, I could tell you what it's like. When I was 14 years old, I sent a letter to United Artists in New York City saying that I'm a better writer than Sylvester Stallone, and I have a better idea for a movie about a basketball player, you know, that's going to be so much more of an underdog story than Sylvester Stallone's Rocky. And when I was 14 years old, and I was like, this is a story about a short, fat, slow-footed Jewish boy from Brooklyn who wanted to be a professional basketball player, you know, and it was like completely off the wall. And thank God I never got a response. I'm sure it's hanging somewhere in the halls of somewhere as being the biggest joke they've ever seen. But that was my reaction to seeing Rocky. I could do better than that. I mean, this is like, I've never seen anything like this. First of all, I don't even think we have, Japan has tariffs on U.S. goods. I'm pretty sure that they don't. We have a free trade agreement with Japan. We trade back and forth with them all the time. What Trump is talking about is the trade deficit, not the tariffs. He keeps using them interchangeably when he feels like it. And we have a trade deficit with Japan. We have a trade deficit with a lot of countries. But I don't think it's anything to be embarrassed about. And he seems really embarrassed and he wants to do something about it. And I'm not really following here what the big deal is. He also said that they don't buy any rice from us, and it turns out they buy quite a bit of rice for us. Maybe not enough rice. Maybe it could be
Well,
more rice. But
I no,
but the
you're
whole thing
correct.
is just bizarre. There's like a surreal atmosphere going on in this Trump administration that I'm actually beginning a little puzzled about because it doesn't seem like anything is real. It's all just like made up fantasy stuff, you know? It's like, you know, saying that there are asylum seekers coming to the America and, you know, speaking of asylums, Hannibal Lecter, you know, it's like that kind of logic, you know, free floating, like anything comes out of the ether, he just says it. And this trade thing with Japan, 25% tariffs. I'm pretty sure, by the way, most Japanese cars are made in America.
Yeah. And also, well, Trump will say, oh, the other countries, they're sending people here. Well, countries don't send people here. People
Right.
come here because people want to come here. Although I think that as time goes on, people are not going to want to come here. And they
No,
shouldn't. They need to go someplace else where
right.
they're
We
going to
all
be
need to leave.
treated with respect and decency, which is no longer the case here. Yeah, I know. I saw that with the Capitals, and I thought, oh dear God. Uh, um, it. I mean, whoever wrote that.
I think he
It,
wrote it,
it,
but he dictated it. He didn't
well,
type it.
yeah, but I mean, whoever.
Whoever
I mean,
typed it,
I would
who typed it?
never agree to writing that or sending that. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
it's abysmal.
that's Trump's style.
I know that. I
To
know
make
that.
it's like whenever, and of course we all have students. You ever notice when the student wants to make a real point, they either put it in bold or they put it in quotation marks, which is wrong. That's
They
just
put it in all capitals, and I keep
I
saying,
mean, and that's what Trump does to
yeah,
make
I
his
keep
point.
saying, no. Italicize if you want to make a point because you'll make the reader feel shouted at, which is what Marcia Sweedler said to us when we were in her class, or
Oh,
my group of students. But also, Trump will put on tariffs to a country like Australia, with whom we have a surplus. So, I mean,
yeah.
what he's talking about, it doesn't make any sense. As you say, Scott, there's a complete departure from any type of reality,
Yeah.
and it's
Surreal.
it's very. The longer this goes on for, the more disturbing it becomes.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
But you brought up something. Mark, did you have Marcia Sweetler when you were at Nova?
Oh gosh, I was one. I was a yes, I was a PA.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I got into fights with those guys. I actually went to her and I said, you know what, your whoever it was some African student was her PA and he kept like giving me failing grades on all my papers. And I said, you know, Marsha, I hate to tell you this, but you're stealing the jam out of my donut. And this guy is like killing me. And she was like, okay, I'll grade your papers from now on myself because
Yeah,
I don't think they understood.
yeah, she never graded. Yeah, I was a TA for her, and she never graded. We had to do all the grading. I remember she used to have, and I liked Martha. I really did. I liked her a lot, but she would have these meetings on Saturday morning,
Oh
and
yeah.
on the Saturday morning meetings, and her husband would be walking around in the background in his underwear.
His
And it
boxer
was like,
shorts, right? His boxer shorts. I would crack up.
and she'd have that soda bottle with the soda thing, the fountain drink with the straw, and she'd be slurping at it the whole time.
Oh
And
my,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, she
I
was.
mean, I remember. I always
Is
wondered. I
she
mean, that
still
was quite
around?
some
She's a
time.
lovely woman.
Yeah,
She was a absolutely wonderful, lovely woman. I don't know if she is. I mean, she was old when we had her.
Yeah.
yeah. She went from full time to an adjunct, and I don't know. But I did TA for gender and conflict, and
I don't even remember what I did it for. I can't even
possibly
remember what the
also
class
for
was.
It was
mediation
like
for her.
was it Foundations that I had over?
I
Yeah,
think
I had her
She had
for,
that awesome card game that we played that everybody
yeah,
had different
that
rules.
Baranga. That was Baranga, which I recommend to most of my classes. You can find it online,
Mm.
and I recommend it. And I've actually done it. I did it in a training for real. and it works quite well.
Yeah, I could see that.
It works quite well.
There were some guys in my group who didn't catch on as quickly as I did, and man, were they angry at me. I took like the first 3 hands, and then I started passing them out to people and welcoming them. You're not allowed to say anything, so it was all hand gestures and faces and stuff. But some of these guys were really angry at me.
I didn't catch on at all, and I got extraordinarily frustrated.
Well, I the one time that I did that was at an RI, and I think Sweedler did this on purpose. She put me in a group, the first group I was with, and wouldn't let us switch. It was me, and there were 5 African American ladies from Atlanta, who were known as the church ladies.
Mm.
And I got with them, and I have to admit, they were a hoot, and they got so upset with me because you're a dictator. It's like whatever, but yeah, a lot of fun to have. One of the things. All right, back to the topic. Sorry about that, Seattle. Again, back to the comments from Seattle about the Prime Minister. I did see he was on, and he was speaking, and he was basically saying that Trump was unreasonable. It was like dealing with an adolescent, and that Japan would not, under any circumstances, buckle under to the absolutely chaotic rhetoric and demands of a childish. I don't think he said childish. He said adolescent minded American president. As a matter of fact, he never once referred to Trump as President Trump. He referred to him entirely as Mr. Trump. So I think Trumpy Trump has pissed the Japanese off. Can't blame him. So we'll see where that goes.
Didn't at one point didn't the Japanese come to the Oval Office to negotiate, like in May or something like this, and nobody seemed to know what the tariff was going to be or what the negotiation plan was going to be, because nobody had prepared and nobody was prepared or ready to negotiate or anything like that, and since nothing happened, the Japanese went home, and that was it.
So you're saying it was business as usual?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think.
And then it was
okay. Meet with them. I'm not meeting with them. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
So Trump has no clue how to negotiate. All he knows how to do is dictate. And of course, the Japanese. I'm very pleased that they are not going to give in or do anything. They shouldn't. Yeah. Nobody should.
It was rather a scathing rebuke from. Normally, let's remember. Normally, the Japanese, their culture, very polite. They generally don't do something like this. Now, the Germans, they can be, they can be not polite. The French definitely can be not polite. The Italians, just when they talk, sometimes they're not polite, but that's just the way they talk. But the Japanese generally are extremely polite. And the Prime Minister basically said, and he was talking to his trade negotiator, who was, I guess, in the room, and said, I think you're a very cultured man, and you understand, and you're very intelligent, but you need to watch the Cohen documentary from his ex-fixer. There was and there was a Trump documentary, and he goes, you'll learn now what kind of man you're dealing with. And it was not put down as a very good thing, very un-Japanese-like. So that's an interesting scenario there. So hopefully we answered Seattle's question.
Yeah, well, it was very presumptuous of Marco Rubio to way back when, I don't even remember when it was, months ago, to say, well, they have to deal with us. The rest of the world has to deal with us. No, they don't. And they're not. And they shouldn't. Wasn't there a meeting of other countries and the United States was left out? I don't know if it was a trade agreement, Canada and a number of other nations, and the U.S. wasn't even notified, and much less invited. Recently, a week or two ago, something like that. And
are you talking about after he left the G7 when they all kind of banded together against him, and he left early. He said he had to go, do something, and
I
he
thought there
ended
was
up bombing Iran. but yeah, I think he got chased out of that meeting because he kept going on and on and on about things that didn't matter, and they kept Carney from Canada had to interrupt him at one point and say, "Let's bring this back to what we're here to discuss," and nobody really wanted to deal with his nonsense.
Yeah, I thought there was a meeting separate from that, like after that, where
I
they
don't
didn't
know,
even
maybe.
bother to invite the United States. Well, the most recent cabinet meeting, I mean, I tried to listen to part of it live. I think it was supposed to be about Texas and the floods or something, and I mean, I couldn't even listen to it. Trump was going on and on and on about whatever in the previous election or the 2020 election,
Oh
or
yeah.
on and on.
Well,
Nothing had, it had
yeah.
nothing to do with anything. I couldn't even listen to it. It made
Yeah.
no
He
sense what he was talking about.
he just freestyles. But one of the things that he said in that meeting yesterday was that, he talks about the CNN and New York Times having fake news. He said, we're going to do something about them soon. Well, I thought it was a really interesting comment, kind of dismissed, I think, in most places. But I don't think I would dismiss that necessarily. That was a threat to the media and to the news organizations that cover him. If he doesn't like their coverage, he's going to do something about them. Pretty crazy.
Oh, yes. And speaking of that, there are content creators who
Yes.
are naturalized Americans, and their lawyers have apparently spoken to these individuals, such as a young man named David Pacman, who was originally from Argentina, who is a naturalized American citizen, and Mr. Pacman apparently was warned by his attorney to tone down the rhetoric against the Trump administration because Trump has started to make moves against anybody who is a naturalized American. And you remember we had David K. Johnston on our show. David K. Professor Johnston was on Times Radio, excuse me, which is a British podcast radio. Professor Johnston said that he had no doubt at some point he would be targeted by Trump personally, put into a detention camp because, like this alligator Alcatraz, Trump wants to have these detention centers all over the country. So eventually, there will be more targeting of not only the CNNs and individual reporters, it will be individual content creators such as ourselves.
Yeah. What's the name of the person who sent us this note? Paul from Seattle?
Yes.
Yeah, I just thought that Paul from Seattle might be interested in this. Since these 25% tariffs, right, have been proposed, not levied yet, I think. It looks like Detroit's big three, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, are being, because they're made in Mexico and Canada, as well as in the United States of America, lower 48, are being hit with tariffs more than Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. So the big three from Detroit are getting hit with tariffs worse than the car companies from Japan and Germany. And I think that's the kind of logic that drives this administration and makes America great again.
And there you have it.
Okay.
I was just going to say, this is definitely making America great again. I mean, is this really what the American people want?
I feel better
Maybe
already.
it is.
Our economy is what, 66% or something like that, consumer driven by Americans buying here, and we are tariffing ourselves basically into
Yeah.
oblivion. Although I think that I'll say it again, the rentier state is going to be alive and well. Americans will grouse about it, we will complain about it, but we will still buy, baby, buy.
I
And
agree.
that's
Not
exactly
if
what
we
he's looking for.
not if we have no jobs and no no place to live, and the economy has crashed. And we're all in detention camps.
I guess that would try to stop us from buying. You're right. Although you
Yeah.
could trade cigarettes for things, I understand, in detention camps.
No, seriously. I mean, at some point, that whole concept would collapse the economy and the country.
Well, economic minds may differ on that.
Sure. So thank you, Paul, for your question, and thank you, Mark and Scott, and thank you to all our listeners for spending some time with us. We appreciate that. Thank you for subscribing, and to anyone who has not yet subscribed, please do so on the platform of your choice. Subscribing is free, and you can tell a friend about us as well. And we will see you next time on the Nova Society. Take care.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So, for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Conflict Science. The JCIS is an open journal for upcoming scholars. The JCIS is currently accepting article submissions on an ongoing basis. The JCIS is a publication of NovaWorks, a scholarly depository at Nova Southeastern University. A link to the journal is in our description.